Hey, what's up, everybody? This is another episode of A White Man Talks Racism with White America. So, today I'm going to talk about the 1970s and into the 1980s and the impact it had on Black America. And this is information I'm passing along for anyone who doesn't know this history, because I certainly didn't until I started learning and researching and understanding more about what's caused the problems of systemic racism that we have in the country. So, imagine this scenario. It's 1970 ish. And around this time, great news, 70% of the black male population in the country holds a good blue collar job. They're mostly in the factories and service businesses that are located in proximity that they can get to, which is really important because at that same time that 70% of the black male population held a good blue collar job, only 28% of those men had access to a car. So it's super important that they have proximity to where they work and where the opportunities to work are so that they can be gainfully employed. Well, the early part of the 70s is kind of the peak and end to the white flight from inner cities for obvious reasons. The black population started moving in. The white residents didn't want to be in commingled neighborhoods, so they started this white flight out into the suburbs. And by the early 70s, a majority of the white Americans that were making that move had made the move, and along with those white Americans went a lot of the businesses. So now, we've got this situation where black men are gainfully employed, doing exceptionally well, gainfully employed, and all of a sudden, the businesses that they need access to work are moving out to the suburbs with the majority of the white people. By the way, at the same time, the black families could not move out to be in closer proximity to the factories and other businesses that had moved because, well, that was illegal. Laws were passed that prevented realtors from selling homes to black families or black individuals in predominantly or exclusively white neighborhoods. So there's a compounding problem happening. So now we're moving through the 70s, and what happens? Well, when you don't have a job and you fall into poverty, you find yourself doing more, poverty creates a drug problem, and a drug problem creates a crime problem. And so now we're getting through this period of time where there's an upswing in the employment and wealth building of black America, and all of a sudden comes to a screeching halt, such a screeching halt that by 1987, so the year that I was a junior in high school, the black men that had been 70% employed in blue collar, good paying blue collar jobs, now saw a 28% employment rate. Imagine the devastation that creates with generations of families that follow that. So, just the completely unaware and had no idea how recent some of these systemic problems have created the problems that still exist today. And that's just a short glimpse. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about what happens with the following couple of decades, the 80s and 90s, and the war on drugs. But just remember that pathway. Black America is gainfully employed, 70% male employment, black male employment in really good blue collar jobs. White flight is happening. Businesses are following the white flight. All of a sudden, opportunities based on proximity, because again, at this time, black men, only 28% of them had access to a car. All of a sudden, unemployment rises, and with unemployment begets poverty. And as poverty grows, drug use grows, and as drug use grows, crime grows. So remember that, because tomorrow we're going to talk about what happened on the back end of drug and crime problems that were a growing problem created by the white flight and the displacement of businesses and employment opportunities for black Americans in the 70s, again, in my lifetime. So I had no idea that this was kind of a part of the problem that still exists in America today. It was created, it goes back into the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, obviously. But as recently as my lifetime, I can tell you the story about how systemic racism was enabled and perpetuated, and it's going to affect people all the way up into present day. I hope that's been a useful, just under 5 minutes of your time to learn a little bit about the history of how systemic racism, just in employment opportunities, has been built into the fabric of America, and what, more than anything, I hope you start to see, based on some of these stories and these histories that I'll be telling, why it's so important that white America gets involved in unwinding the problems that we created. You and I may not have created them directly, but if we haven't undone the problems that we were given by our ancestors, we're still part of the problem. So it's time to unwind those problems, become a part of the solution, start to end the systems of racism that have been woven into the fabric of our country and still exist today. And part of that beginning to unwind process is understanding how the systems were built to begin with. I'll be checking back in with you again. Hope the video finds someone that needed to hear it. Hope it's helpful, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Peace.